Welcome to the Witchy Wit Podcast, episode 14,
Magical Names.
What does your name say about you?
What do you want to invoke in a name in sacred space?
What names do you make fun of? Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit Podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
Ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
Races,
and backgrounds.
with a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true. Our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves. Welcome into our circle for the 14th episode of Witchy Wit, Magical Names. Before we dive into that really juicy subject, I wanted to take a moment and let's just see how each of us are doing in our lives outside of witchiness. Kimberlyn, what's going on?
I'm starting to get a little stir crazy. During this whole COVID stuff, I've really been relishing being in my house and kind of forced to be in my house because this is something that has been my goal for years, is slowing down and really giving myself time to do the stuff that I wanted to do. And so I've been really enjoying that. The one thing that I do love to do and I haven't been able to do is travel. And what's so sad about this was, so COVID kind of struck like the middle of March. The beginning of March, I sunk thousands of dollars in my timeshare and up to all of this money I was going to be paying over the course every month so that I could take advantage of all these super whoopie-doo trips that I haven't been able to go on. I mean, now granted, I've been banking my points or whatever and stuff, but I never thought of myself as having Wanderlust or, the real need to travel. I knew I loved it and I knew that it was always going to be a part of my life, but I'm getting kind of antsy now and I'm ready. I'm hoping, knock wood, to do a trip to Florida right when school ends. And I have Hawaii on the books for August. So
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I really actually have until July to cancel. But I'm hoping that things will have quieted down and we'll all be, relaxed about travel. And I mean, not us, mainly Hawaii. Right now, Hawaii lets no one in. Yes. So they're super cautious. And so I'm hoping that by then things will have quieted down. Because I just, it's not that I don't love here and I love San Antonio and I love my home, but I'm ready to travel. So that's where I am. Yeah.
Can we talk about, for a second, about how you travel, right?
Well, I used to. I used to.
You don't play when you travel.
No, that's right. Well, you've traveled with me.
I know. Yes. I travel better when I travel with you. Because guess who gets to mooch off of you?
Well, that's the beauty of the United Club, is that you can bring a guest with you.
Thank goodness.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, oh my gosh. Just, it's worth it for the wine alone, right? Like, particularly when your flight's getting canceled. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. Give me another wine, honey. Yeah, I love the destination, but I actually like traveling. I mean, I don't know if I want to just, be sitting cramped up in a seat for hours and hours and hours, but, it's worth it to me, and I love the anticipation of before I get there, and I love being there, and then I love reminiscing on the way. Well, maybe not as much, but yeah. But I do enjoy the coming home knowing that I traveled hard. What about with you? What's going on with you?
Okay, so I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this. I don't know how you're going to react. Okay. So do you watch murder shows?
You mean like a crime?
Like true crime shows?
I have been known to. Yeah, I haven't watched any lately.
Okay.
Why? Oh.
Why? Good. Thank you for asking. So I only recently realized that that's a really big thing. For women.
For women? Really?
Yeah, for women. True crime is huge for women.
I didn't know this at all.
Get this. Okay, here's how I found it out.
Okay.
Saturday Night Live did a sketch about murder shows, and it was like this funny song about like the husband leaves and then the wife is like on the couch and she like turns on murder shows, and like the whole song is about murder shows, which is true crime shows. And so then I watched it and I was like, is this a thing?
So I want to make sure I understand. Are these the shows where they recreate? They take real. Are these fictional stories like Criminal Minds, or are these the stories where they take real live events and they recreate them?
Yes, I think they're the true crime ones.
Okay, that's the true crime. Okay,
particularly around like women who get like abducted or murdered or like and then they go back through and they solve the case or whatever or talk about how it happened. So I watched the SNL skit and I was like not getting the joke.
my jaw's hanging open. Okay.
And then I like go to scholarly articles, which is, and I find out that this is actually a thing, and that particularly women are really into true crime. But then here's where I find it interesting. Okay. Do I have you so far? Like,
I'm with you.
You're smelling what I'm stepping in?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
You're picking up what I put down. Yeah. Do you have any idea? So I found out why psychologists think that women are really into these true crime shows. Do you have any thoughts, or do you show me?
Like maybe because it's not happening to them, so they can feel more comfortable.
Because they're not being murdered.
Yeah, well,
it is more comfortable
at that moment
to not be murdered.
At that moment in time, they may change their minds later, but.
So I think you're on the right path. This blew me away. So when I was reading, there's psychologists and are saying that it's because of the misogyny in our culture that women are acting out their like worst nightmare and then seeing how it's solved and then seeing how they could avoid it.
Whoa!
And like how they might have done it differently, or how they might have murdered that person, like gotten revenge.
Yeah.
But this is like all below the level of consciousness.
Right.
People
of course,
are just like
they're just watching it because they think they like it.
Exactly.
And but the reasons that they like it may not be.
Why we as in women why are women so drawn to this? So
that's amazing, because I do know some friends who there are channels dedicated to like television channels,
really,
or cable dedicated to. Where the majority of these shows are these shows,
like the Hallmark Channel, but
for true crime. Yes, what? Yes. No, a friend was telling me about it. Oh my gosh. Okay. But see, I just thought it was her. I was just thinking, well, that's interesting. But I didn't realize that this is a thing. It must be, because no one's going to. It's a commercial station, right? No one's going to pay for advertising on something that's not being watched. So that should have told me something. But wow.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's not just a niche. It sounds like it's a huge, I think it's like an alcove. It's a room.
Right. It's not a niche. It's a room. It's a subdivision.
Wow. Okay, so we're gonna have to spend some time and watch one or two.
I guess. I don't know. I'm worried about it. I'm scared. I used to watch Unsolved Mysteries as a kid. Do you remember that show? And I remember hiding behind the couch, with my eyes over the top of it. I was a little kid. I was so scared. That's about my extent with murder shows.
Well, I told you how I told you when I was when I had living out in the county, I started watching. Okay, let me a little bit of background. So, a while ago, I was on a hiking trail with a friend, and this incredibly compelling combination of just beautiful manhood just went by on a bicycle with his son, and coming towards me, looked gorgeous, going away, looked really gorgeous, and my friend said, "Oh, do you recognize him?" I said, "No," because I guess because I've been staring at him.
Gawking.
and she said, "Oh, I thought you knew who that was." I said, "No."
I wish.
Yeah, exactly. He was the star, and I don't remember his name right offhand. If you said it, I'd recognize it. The star of Criminal Minds. That's why I asked about Criminal Minds. Anyway, so he lives here in San Antonio, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and or at least he did at the time. He may still. Anyway, so I was so I thought that was so interesting, and so I decided to watch that show. Oh my gosh, it is so scary, because basically the premise, it's about Criminal Minds. It's a unit that's dedicated to psychiatric analysis of psychopaths. and serial killers. And so the show is basically about serial killers, and the underlying premise of it all is that it doesn't really matter what you do. If they want you, they'll get you. So I just moved out on my own. I just moved out on my own, out in the county, not even in like the township, you know. And so that was when I got my gun license. Not because I knew it wouldn't help me, but it was like one of those little artificial things that allow you to feel like you have some sort of control. But yeah, so I don't know if we're ready for this, but maybe during the summer when we can kind of talk each other down
at like 11 a.m.
11 a.m. I think we should watch it because so we know what's going on out there in the zeitgeist.
For research purposes.
For research purposes, yes, indeed. So as we think about magical names, let's start. You know, the idea of magical names is that when we're in ritual space with each other, or I mean anything outside of our mundane life, that we're using words that maybe reflect more who we are. I mean, what do you think?
I think I would agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
That to me, the magical name is another way of separating my mundane life from my spiritual life. Mm-hmm. So just like maybe our Christian friends put on special clothes to go to church on Sunday, like we have a special name that we can put on.
I like that, and actually, there is a precedent for that because you mentioned our Christian friends. When a child is christened, usually they get another name, right?
Oh,
yeah. So
okay.
So they get another name that represents their Christian aspect, because that's when they get their new godparents. And they get their godparents, not their new ones, but their godparents. Hopefully, they're only godparents. They're godparents, and they also get a name in many traditions. Not all of them, I would imagine. But,
okay.
Or they say their name before the priest or the minister or whatever. And so that actually takes me to just names in general, because I just think so. I just went to a shower this past weekend. And we knew the gender of the baby, and we brought things that might have reflected that. But I don't know if they hadn't yet chosen a name, or they just weren't willing to share the name. And I think just how we think about names is magical outside of maybe pagan or witchy circles. Isn't that your sense of it?
I think so. I had a question, like, do you think that your mundane name is magical?
I kind of do. So here's the thing. I don't think I thought about it until I was in my late teens. I know definitely by the time I was in college. Up until then, people called me Kim or Kimmy or and
really?
And yeah, I know. But that's when I started insisting people call me Kimberlyn.
Wow, you do not seem like a Kim or a Kimmy.
No, I know.
At all.
I know. My relatives all call me that, and I have a couple of friends who call me Kim, but that's not the name that resonates for me.
You're the first Kimberlyn I've ever known.
I at one point I was one of 4 in the country that you could find on Google,
Mm-hmm.
So whatever that means. But yeah. So but I think there was a Kimberlyn on a soap opera, and then it became a lot more popular.
Do you remember which soap opera?
I want to say it was like either Young and the Restless or Bold and the Beautiful, or so one of those types of names.
Okay.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden people started naming that. But so let's talk about that, because in names in general. So in preparation for this show, I kind of did like the most popular names in certain years and things like that, and you do see there are some people who just they just like the sound of a name, but there are times when I remember, I think Betty. Like in the 40s and 50s, and it could have been Betty Grable was an actress then. Okay, don't.
I know Betty White.
Okay. Yeah, I like her a lot. But Betty Grable was kind of like a sex symbol type of, she was known for her legs, and so it could have had something to do with that. It could have just been something in the zeitgeist, But there are these names that are super, super popular. So. I remember when I was teaching in the middle school, Jennifer was a huge, huge name. And I mean, there's still a lot of Jennifers, but not the wave. But so when, let's say, I mean, neither one of us have children, but what, in your experience, what's the thinking behind choosing a name? I mean, it could be just be a name that you just like the sound of. What are some of the other reasons that people give for choosing certain names for their children?
I don't know because I don't have kids, but but I would say to me a name is an invocation, and to me it's what do I want to invoke with this name? Am I selecting a name because of a person that also had that name, like a grandparent, or like a figure at large, like Teresa like Mother Teresa, like someone that I really admire, or like a name because it harkens back to something culturally or a special memory or a place. Like to me, it just is an invocation of something important.
Yes. Yeah. So I love the fact that you mentioned maybe a relative. But in a way, so you're honoring that person, or maybe you're invoking some element of that person that you hope will be in your child, right?
Right. I think that's a difference between like a mundane explanation of why you picked a name and then the magical. I am invoking my grandmother's badassery into this child.
That's true. I never. Yeah, but maybe people aren't consciously thinking that,
right.
and there's something there. Names are powerful, right? And I suspect not just witchy people know that. I mean,
right.
I think people, there's that sense of you're calling someone something, and that's going to be with them for the rest of their life. Like they can change their hair color, they can change, pretty much everything, but they're going to have that. Well, I guess they can change their name too, right?
They could, right?
and which leads us to our story, our episode. So, back really just in terms of thinking about the mundane ways of this, I know now, I remember reading somewhere that the name Arya, spelled a number of different ways, is really popular, and that's because of Game of Thrones, Arya Stark. And so I while the television show is recent, the books were out for a couple of decades now, and again, there's that sense of naming your daughter after this really, really powerful character. And so I was going to go somewhere with that.
I could see that being a magical name, though. It sounds magical to me.
Well, very.
Especially if I was a musically inclined person. Like if music was important to me in my craft, I could see picking that.
Oh, yeah, totally. So, Leilani.
Why, yes, Kimberlyn, not Kim or Kimmy.
So you asked if I felt like my mundane name is magical. What about you?
So I do. And I really did towards the beginning of my like major intense commitment towards the spiritual path, because when I joined this group here, this was the first group where I had been in where there were like a lot of people, especially the people in leadership, had magical names. And so I was like, whoa, I'm Leilani. Like we would do check-ins and I'd be like, I'm Leilani, and I questioned what to do about that. And I decided that my name was Magickal. And I think it helps that it's a little bit more of a unique name, at least here on the mainland. It's unique. In Hawaii, it's just like Jennifer. Like it's everywhere. and I always think it's funny whenever people go to Hawaii and they see my name. I get so many texts from people like, "Hey, I'm on your street. Hey, I'm at your restaurant. Hey, I found your name on a keychain. Hey, here's a shirt with you.
Yeah.
And I love it because that's people saying that they love me. Through their actions. But there's also a part of me that's like, yeah, duh, it's everywhere over there. But here, I definitely feel like it's special.
Yeah, it is very special
and magical, and I was very happy with it as a holding my name in a magical space for a really long time.
Can I share something with you? When I don't know if this was the very first. I don't think it was the very first time I met you, but it was one of the times I was drumming, and you were dancing, and I was just thinking, Leilani, like hula. But as I was drumming, I'm just picturing like this big ocean behind you, a beach, and like maybe flowers in your hair. And it was just so amazing. And it was, I think I had just learned, I think I'd seen you before then. And I hadn't heard your name at that point. So this was the second or third time. But by then I knew your name. And I I like literally zoned when we were, whatever the rhythm I was playing, and you were just dancing, and like your head was down, you weren't looking at anybody, but to me, I could just see you kind of with a, you know, a brightly colored sarong or something, dancing on a beach.
I have danced on the beach.
I know you have.
In Hawaii.
So
it was
I had to
wonderful.
imagine it then, but I've seen it since, so I know that for a fact. Yeah, yeah. And then, do you have a middle name?
I do. My middle name is May, M-A-E.
Oh, that's right.
And
Yeah.
it's after my grandmother.
Lovely, lovely.
Which is very important to me. My grandmother is really important to my sister and I,
Yeah.
especially in our magical practice. So it definitely feels magical to have that as part of me.
Yeah. Mine is, my mother was kind of hearkening to, we have Cherokee, I think, in my mother's side of the family. And so my middle name is Winona, which means firstborn daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, and I don't know if, I guess, you know, I don't know what I picture with my mother. Like how much of this you really thought through, because sometimes she just lies later and just says, oh yeah, no, that's what I meant to do. Anyway, so, but I mean, it does mean firstborn daughter, and I am the firstborn daughter. And
Aww.
yeah. And at the time in Newark, New Jersey, that was a very unusual name. Now we have like Winona Judd and the actress who shoplifts.
Winona Ryder?
Her, yes. Or maybe we might have to cut that later. But there are a number of Winonas out there, or I don't know if it's Winona or Winona or whatever, but there's a number of them that are out there. Maybe, and it seems like maybe it's associated more with white people. But I know in Newark, New Jersey.
Totally my impression.
Yeah.
And it's pronounced Winona.
Winona. Why not? Nona. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, so like how my mother got that is still, you know, she still has not, well, she's dead now, but at the time she hadn't explained it, that I really felt convinced she was she wasn't lying. So, but anyway, I love it. I love it.
You love the name Winona?
I do. And, well, not Winona. I love Winona. But,
Winona.
Winona.
Is that better? Winona.
Yeah.
So bringing up the fact of like crafting other names, even though they may not be magical names, or they could be considered magical names, just depending on what we define a magical name. There was a point in my life where I remember feeling like I had some sort of possible identity crisis, because I felt like I'm a teacher. And so at school I was Miss Long, you know, then I was Leilani. Then I at the time I was doing, this was like, I don't know, maybe 10 or so years ago, back whenever the like exotic dance workouts were like real hip. And so I was teaching like exotic dance workouts at, you know, like for people after school as like a side job. And so I had like a name there. And then I went to our circle and I had my magical name there. And I remember just feeling like part of me felt divided. Like there were all these different parts of me. They were all part of the whole, but there were all these parts of me. And I had a feeling of wanting to be more united and more all of me, all the places.
More integrated.
That's a great way of putting it. I felt very segmented. And I think part of that is being a public school teacher, which I imagine you understand. Like I could not tell people at public school that, you know, even though it was just an exercise class, you know, I still remember like I didn't tell people at my job that I was doing that, even though it was just an exercise class. But, you know, when I work for public school, you know, but I definitely felt, and I also didn't share my faith with people at my work, you know, but I just remember feeling really segmented, and my names reflected that.
That makes so much sense. It's it's that you said that, because I had gone through this period, and I actually told people I was very compartmentalized, that I had this aspect of my life, like they were different facets of the same, you know, crystal, of the same stone, but they were definitely not integrated. And I wonder if, I mean, we're going off topic, but I wonder if we can actually do that. Like, so for example, at my birthday party when I turned 60, I invited everybody from all the different parts of my life, and I figured it was going to, some people would try to say my magical name and then try to remember what my real name was, and other people would, you know, like, how do you know her? That kind of thing. And so I but I embraced it then because I'm like 60. It's like if you're not gonna,
that's true.
If you're not going to
That's
integrate
true.
at this point, like when the hell are you going to do it?
You were also tenured at that point.
I was
I
totally
tenured.
Totally tenured, and they would have to like pry me out of there with a shovel to get me out there. But it's still a choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had family, with whom I'm not, there's still one member of my family with whom I'm not out of the broom closet. And but I was willing to take that chance that somehow it would come out because this is something that I've been working towards. And names reflect that. Names are magical, and names reflect that. And even a nickname like Kim or Kimmy, because that's what my beloved cousin calls me, that's still a part of me, right? And it's not necessarily who I present as, but it's still a part of me.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk about what might happen whenever worlds collide like that?
Yes, let's do it. So I just remember where it was it HEB? So the local supermarket. So there is this woman who is I won't say her name, but I'll tell you later. But anyway, she, really, really sweet woman, but not always thinking. And so I'm at the HEB, checking out, standing in line. So it's like I can't go forward. There's people in front of me, people behind me. And I hear across the crowded room my magical name.
She's screaming it across.
She's screaming it across the. Well, maybe not screaming. She maybe like 3 or 4 hours, but it's I'm just
not quiet.
Yeah, it's not quiet. It's like I'm going to say my regular, Kimberlyn. Hey, Kimberlyn.
No.
Just like that.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
Yes. But my magical name. And I'm thinking, are you fucking kidding me? And so I just kind of, you can't see me at home, but I'm waving my hand in front of my face, trying to, to dissuade her.
Uh-huh.
And she keeps doing it.
No.
And then when she finally gets up to me, I said, I really would prefer you not use my craft name out in front of everyone. And she said, oh. And I don't think she said, is that your craft name? It wasn't that bad, but it was kind of like, oh, really? Why? I mean.
Yeah, checking out with broccoli is not the time to have this discussion. Like, this is not the place.
I know. And what makes it even worse is that, maybe I could have like played it off, but she got closer and closer. And she actually elbowed people out of the way who were standing behind me in the line because she wanted to talk to me.
Jeez Louise.
I know. So even if I could kind of pretend that she wasn't talking to me, I couldn't anymore. So isn't that the strangest thing?
That is so strange. That's so detached from context of
yes yeah she's oblivious.
Yeah.
And she is oblivious, and you'll know who I'm talking about later. But anyway, but think about that. So how many times have you seen someone in the HEB and you want to say something and you don't know their real name, or you can't remember their real name? Or
sometimes I have the issue of like, maybe if it's not, so with someone like you, I definitely would approach you and speak with you, but maybe it's a woman that I know, like I don't know as well, and she's with maybe her family, and I'm like, if I approach, will we then have to explain how we know each other? Also, maybe I don't know her mundane name. Maybe she doesn't know my, it just adds this layer of complexity of like, how do I navigate this situation? I don't know.
You just kind of nod at each other wisely and you walk by.
Right? I've done that before where it's like, hello, nice bagels.
Yeah. So, it can make things complex and complicated, but we keep doing it. So why? Let's move on to let's move on to that.
Why would we do this?
Yeah, why would we do that? So, tell me your thinking when you create your magical name.
Okay. So I didn't have one for a very, very, very long time. For a really long time in my life, but also a really long time in our circle. And I created it, I took it on because of my rite of passage.
Yes.
Which you may remember because you were there.
I know. It was fabulous.
So it was after I had done like a 2-year-long mentorship with the group, and had not only been mentored by my mentor, but also by the other priestesses in the group, you included.
Yes.
And for me, it was a step. Well, for the group, it was a recognition of them, seeing me, and because power is created by others who are willingly sharing it. in co-created groups. But then also it was for me stepping in and taking on this identity as a priestess, or more so as a priestess, because we all priestess. I think we all priestess. So it felt like a good time for me. Am I supposed to tell more about that?
No, that's fine.
I forgot what the question is. I got all emotional about like taking on the name.
No, that's fine. That's
I'm
totally
realizing
fine.
I don't talk about this very often. And so like a lot of feelings are coming up, like good feelings.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the question?
How'd you come up with it?
How'd I come up with Okay.
Yeah. Like, I don't know.
I am very, not flustered, but like flushed with feelings as we talk about this. That's interesting. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Wow, that's amazing.
So then I took it, it had been an animal that had kept popping up in my life. And yes, and my mentor in my master's degree program had called me, had like referenced this animal a number of times throughout my program, and like seeing traits of this animal with me, and then there was a couple of descriptive words that I felt like added to the type of energy that I want to bring, because I'm very high energy. So for me, the name was an intention and a reflection of who I am, but also who I want to be.
I love the idea of an intention, because you're kind of setting a goal. It's not necessarily it could be reflecting who you are, but it's also showing like the best part of you that you want to be. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so cool.
Thank you. I'm just feeling a lot of things.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you. What about you? I actually don't know the story behind.
So here's the thing. I had my magical name long before I was a witch.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I can't remember the original context, but I do remember my first Akita was a confirmation. It was a show dog. It was a confirmation dog, and I decided that was going to be, if I continued to, if I decided I was going to breed and all that, I had decided that it was going to be my kennel name, the name of my kennel, and also when I was married, my ex was going to build a boat, and he was going to name the boat with my magical name. So I've been thinking about this for like 30 years, easily 30 years. Yeah, 30 years. And so so this is so complicated, not complicated, but it's just hard to articulate, because it's something, it reflects a part of me that I want. So it's kind of like you said, an intention, and this idea of it's my major means of expression. So I'll just say it's a musical. So, because I know we're kind of talking around it, everybody. The major way I express myself, and then it's kind of this global, this idea of me being, me being ascended and being a better version of me, because I'm open to the universe.
Wow. Definitely feel like you've achieved that, because that's definitely my sense of knowing you without knowing you with that name, but without knowing why the name.
Thank you.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me.
Well, the thing about it for me is that I've been trying to live it long before I've put any magical intent behind it. And so that's what's so when I decided I wanted a craft name, it's like, oh, well, I already have one. Like, I'll just use that. And yeah.
I love that it's to me like it feels very overachiever that you kept it for like 30 years. Some people like sit with their magical name for a year and a day. You're like screw that, I'm going to do 30.
Well, and it could be just laziness on my part. It's like, why go to the trouble of thinking of, that means I'd have to sit and be self-reflective and blah, blah, blah. I've got a name. It's me. Okay. So, and because I've had it, I was talking to a friend about 2 or 3 months ago, and her child is going away to college. And I remember her child when she was in elementary school. And I don't know if her child even knows my real name. So it's so funny. We were at we are at this other function at this organization downtown, and the kids were just calling me by my magical name, and
I love that so much.
And no one. I don't know if other people were batting an eye, but it's like I can't fight this. These are kids who love me with this name. It's like I'm not going to fight this. I'll figure it out later, right?
Oh, they have no clue.
Yeah, I know.
That's adorable. Very different from the supermarket lady.
Very different.
Notice my reaction is different.
Totally. It's the same situation, but totally different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's something interesting that I want to hear what you have to say about. So we have done witchy things with witchy communities far away from us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And now this is a modern issue with magical names. So let's say I go to some, you and I have been to some place, we spend however long with like practicing with, doing ritual with these people. I know them by their magical name. Mm-hmm. Then we leave and they're like, find me on social media.
I can't find
right? And I'm like looking up like, what Raven Cloud Dancer or whatever, right? And I'm like, I don't know, like there is no Raven Cloud Dancer
because their name is like Mary Brennan or something,
right? And I'm like, I'm like, Mary, who's Mary, But then here's another problem that I have. Mm-hmm. So then I've connected with people. I've somehow figured it out, right? And I connect with people on social media. Then maybe I don't see them for 3 or 5 or whatever years, and then I'm back in ritual space with them. And I can't remember their magical name because all I see is
it's Facebook.
Mary on Facebook or Instagram. And I'm like, I don't know who, like, so then is that weird? If all y'all listening, if you ever had those awkward situations where you've met someone and you like forget their name, this is even more awkward.
It's even worse. Yeah. It's because, oh my gosh. And I can't even say first world problems because Facebook is everywhere, right? Except China.
It's true.
Or I'll say modern day problems, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's, you have, and so we do get a sense of people outside of our circle. I mean, outside of the circle. So even at this retreat, we know them as the personality or as how they present at that retreat. But then we get to see little glimpses of the rest of their life, right? Because of Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And in a way that's kind of beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Because that they're trusting us enough to share that part with them. And so I like that.
I do too. Can I tell you something I have a judgment on?
Okay, please.
People who chronically change their magical name.
Girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
So first off, let me just say this. Like that year and a day makes sense to me, and I understand people try on and try on for as a different fit, different names until they figure out, or that's their thing. That doesn't bother me as much as when they change their names, they totally purge all of their social media, their email addresses, all that kind of stuff, and then they recreate with this new presentation. And then they friend me again. And there is a woman that we know that did this a couple of times. And after that, because she changed, would you say like every year and a half?
I thought it was more frequently than that.
Okay.
She would do a
we've
total.
Just known her for a while. We've known her for a while. Though,
yeah, a total identity change.
But at least 4 times that I knew her. And after the second time, I refused. Like I kept getting friend requests. I just delete them because there's absolutely no point. Because I'd be getting another one in a year and a half or whatever. So it's probably not coming from the best part of me. But yeah, it kind of drove me nuts.
It does too, and I was thinking about why, and it's not because I am unsupportive of identity changing, because I'm fully in support of when people feel that they need to shift their identity and the name reflects that, especially in a magical space. I'm all about it. Like you and I both have a mutual friend who recently changed their name, and we both were embracing of that because that's the right thing to do. But it's when it's done so frequently that it seems to dilute the magnitude of what I think taking on a magical name should represent.
Right. Yeah. And again, this is just our judgment. And but yeah, I don't remember the community, but there's something about don't pull the world into your drama. And so there are a number of different communities where you enact personas, and that's between you and, you have your little group and your private things, and you do those types of things. But then I think the part that drives me crazy is then we have to kind of all participate in all of your changes. And that's the part I think that bothers me the most, is like, I get it, you're searching. And when you're done searching, let me know. I'm totally with you or whatever. But I'm not going to tell you. This is what it is for me. Okay. I think I feel, and this could totally not be the case, but I feel in these situations that I'm being asked to embrace a part of you that you may not necessarily be committed to.
Oh.
So again, this is totally, I'm not saying this is what this woman was saying. And so this is just, Kimberlyn having her little moment. But that's the first couple of times it's like, okay, sure. The second's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to let you ride this out, and then just let me know when you get to the end. And she's still not at the end as far as I can tell. I think I don't know if she still sends me friend requests. I might have. But she, if she's changed her persona, then that block no longer works.
Right.
But yeah.
So maybe if you might be considering a magical name, there's a lot of resources out there for you. I actually was given a book that it's called the Book of Magical Names. No. And yes, it was a dear friend of mine in my undergrad, and she bought it. She was a witch. She bought it because she needed to name her cats.
Oh, yes. And in fact, I have a book. Okay, anyway, we'll just... Now that you think about it. Okay, all right.
But there does seem to be, as people who have navigated a number of different communities like you and I have, there does seem to be some trends in magical names.
A lot of magical animals. I mean, there's regular animals, so I'm trying to think. Lion, etc., but magical names. So there's often dragons, or well, maybe not unicorns. What else? Okay, now I'm drawing a blank. What are other magical creatures? Salamanders. No. Okay. Well, let's move on. But also,
Griffin.
Griffin, yes, that's a very popular one. But celestial names too, like so either the names of stars, or other heavenly bodies, and because that's one of mine. So, what else?
Elemental things.
Oh yeah, so
things that have to do with our earth or the elements or the seasons.
That's a very popular one. I think because so many people are trying to be expressive of their connection with the world around them, and taking a step back. So one of the things that you said, it sounds like your name is aspirational. And do you also feel as if your name is reflective of you?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's both.
Yeah.
And so I have a noun and then an adjective. So this is the English teacher in me coming out, right? And I think that a lot of magical names are like noun, adjective, or adjective.
Yes. Who knew? I was magical long before I was magical. Wow.
Yeah. So it seems like and sometimes it can be like two nouns or noun adjective or something like that. But for me, the noun is reflective and the adjective is intentional.
Wow. So this is why I took a step back, is that I suspect a lot of people, maybe intentionally or not, are kind of considering those things, like, is it something that they're aspiring to, so they're I'm having a little of that, or is it that this name is me, right? Wow. And we have some friends who have just changed their names to kind of be more, I guess, reflective, right? Yeah.
Sometimes names are like cultural references.
Very much.
Or ancestral references.
Yes. And or paying homage. So They, and they can just be a really beautiful combination of a number of those things. There are some kind of not stereotypical, but what's the word I'm looking for? Cliche.
Yeah, cliche.
There's a lot of ravens. A lot of
moon references.
A lot of moon references. Stars. There, and I'm trying to think.
Anything?
A lot of wolves. A lot of wolves. A lot of wolves.
References to nighttime.
Nights. Night references. I'm trying to think. What else? Different birds. I think a lot of different birds.
Not throwing shade on those, but definitely they show up a lot.
Yeah.
So we just got an example of this by saying that we do have these like hackneyed names or
kind of
cliched like nouns that are put together. And so let's just take a look at some authors.
So I remember, from years and years ago seeing this book, and it's called To Ride a Silver Broomstick, and the author's name, is
Silver Raven Wolf.
Silver Raven Wolf, which kind of, we have the element, or elemental like the ore, and then we have the raven, and we have the wolf.
Right.
There you go.
Which are all like...
It's all there.
Very, very common. And then someone that you and I have both worked with and done some stuff around her work, Star Hawk.
Yeah,
so
Star Hawk. Yes.
Star and
Star
then Hawk, right?
Yes. Yeah,
right. And so it's not that they're bad, but I definitely think that after we've been around enough communities with magical names, sometimes we can start seeing some.
A few pop up every once in a while.
Right.
They're kind of like the Jennifers.
Right. Exactly.
Jennifer and Leilani in Hawaii.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why is that people feel that there's a power in that. So, the raven is a powerful symbol. The wolf is a powerful symbol. So, I mean, people are drawn to, I would imagine they're drawn to it because those are either elements that they want or they feel, elements that they want or they feel reflect them. So, yeah, wolf is huge.
Oh.
We're running with the wolves.
I do love to run with the wolves.
No, yes.
Well, I've never actually literally done it.
No.
We've done it plenty of times in virtual space. I've done it with you.
That's right. Yes, let's do this. Okay.
You may have noticed that we've been
really awkwardly
talking around our names,
our magical names,
names, right, and not revealing them.
Yeah. So when we actually decided to have a podcast, we had this discussion, and obviously we revisited it when we knew that we were going to do this episode about whether or not we would use our magical names or not. And so one of the reasons I chose not to is that even though people outside of our circle know it in some cases, it's still to me an essential part of myself that I feel I only reveal fully in magical space. And that even though I trust a lot of our listeners, and I love you all, by putting it out there, then I've kind of lost control over who gets to say it, if that makes sense. And I'm sure there's more thinking behind it, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. What about you when you decided to use yours?
Do you remember when we were having discussions around forming the podcast and we were talking about whether or not we would use our magical names, our mundane names? I initially thought we would use our magical names because it's a podcast from a witchy perspective. And of course we talk about things that aren't necessarily witchy, but it was from that perspective. But whenever you shared your reasoning why, it really got me thinking. And as our listeners know, we use our mundane names, and it helped me realize that hearing my name said to me, my magical name said to me, really helps me invoke that spiritual energy. And I think because I'm such a sensual person, sensual meaning the five senses, hearing my name, speaking that name is very visceral, and it helps to really ground me into and pull me into sacred space. So I was kind of confused after listening to you because I have my magical name on my Facebook profile. It says my mundane name, but then underneath it, I have my magical name. That doesn't bother me at all. So like showing people my name doesn't.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It doesn't trigger that removal of the sacredness of it for me. It's the fact that if we were to sit here, I think, and use our magical names back and forth, that would be cueing me that like it's ritual time.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to hold that energy for ritual time. Not that it would like that it's finite, but I would want to hold it for that ritual time.
Yeah, and so how do you feel when I take the initials and I say it with a Southern accent?
I love it. So we have just as a side note to y'all listening. When we do ritual planning or like email chains or things like that with the priestesses in our group, we oftentimes abbreviate our names down to just 2 letters. And I absolutely love it when you do it, and I love it whenever you speak it with your Southern drawl. Because I think, so here's something I say to everybody about like a little bit of good-natured humor or like poking. I grew up with a little brother, so I don't make fun of you unless I like you.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, like, so like whenever a nickname gets given, even if it's just initials of my magical name, I feel so loved.
Well, and that's, like I said, I don't like Kim and Kimmy until I hear my cousin say it.
Aww.
When he says it, it's like, wow.
Okay.
So I get it. I get that. I really get that. That makes sense.
Okay, can I tell you a story about whenever I was trying to think of what magical name I would take on at my rite of passage? Can I tell you about one of the ones I didn't too?
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. So, I don't know if you know this about me, but I have this like streak in me that likes to be contrary.
I might have seen that once or twice.
Reference the When Witch Shit Goes Bad episode if you want more details on that. So I couldn't think of a magical name. I actually really struggled. I'm really happy with what I settled on, but it took me a really long time. I went through a lot of names, and including that entire magical names book that friend had given me like a decade before. But I was trying to think of a magical name, and then I went down this rabbit hole of being contrary about like Silver Raven Wolf and all that stuff, and I was like, what's the opposite of all of that? Like what is the opposite? And that's what I'm gonna take. I'm gonna take the opposite magical name. And then I was like, I'm gonna call my magical name is gonna be Jane. And I sat with it for a while. I was like, I'm kind of
welcome, Jane.
Right? I'm kind of saying it like, whatever. But seriously, I was like, that's like the anti-magical name. That's like the most.
Not throwing shade on any Janes out there.
But it's like, literally like Jane Doe is like the every woman.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, no, that's true. Oh, that would have been so hysterical. So we're having the rite of passage, because I think that's when you announced it.
It
right?
is.
And it's like, and now we sing and we dance and we chant to our newest priestess,
Jane. I'm every woman.
I think probably there would have been dead silence.
Right? So I decided not to do that.
I'm so glad. Oh, too funny.
Okay, also another name that I had considered, this was after Jane, was, I love to dance, and my favorite element is water. So I had considered the name Dancing Waters. Well, which is like lovely, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, turns out it's a Bath and Body Works scent. I walk into Bath and Body Works, and I mean, maybe subconsciously I saw it there, and that's what made it pop in my head. But I walked into Bath and Body Works and saw it, and was like, well, not doing that.
Well, and also it sounds kind of indie, like Native American, right?
Oh, it does.
So I loved it. I mean, it just sounds dancing waters, right?
Right? It's gorgeous.
Yeah, but apparently someone else thought that too.
Yeah, call me sun-ripened raspberry or
gingered apple or apple pie.
Warm vanilla sugar.
All beautiful names, not throwing shade.
No, all one. I guess, yeah, if you need to know a magical name, go to Bath and Body Works. They've got plenty just right there.
Or lipstick color.
Lipstick color would work, right?
So as we were thinking about our names and the power of our names, and we often end with a poem, and I thought, well, what if we did a poem with the initials of our name? And there's actually a place online, I can't remember what it is, where you can type in your name and it creates a poem out of your name.
An acrostic poem, just so everyone knows, because this is the English teacher in me again popping up to say acrostic.
Yes, indeed. So I would love to read your name to you.
Okay.
Because I just think what surprised me about it, actually, all kidding aside, was when I read it, I thought, oh my gosh. I mean, they just take the letters, right? And they just come up with something. But I thought it was so, it was kind of predictive. Like they kind of captured you. So anyway, I'm going to read it. So L is for lion-hearted, a brave soul. E is for eloquent, the gift of expression. I is for independent, never swayed by others. L is for lovable. To know you is to love you. A is for athletic. It is breathtaking to watch you play. N is for noble, an honorable heart. I is for industrious, conscientious in your tasks.
Oh, thank you so much.
I just, when I read that, I was just thinking, oh my God, that's so you. Oh, I just found that it's from the Name Poem Generator. So www.namepoem.org.
Can I read yours?
Oh, sure.
Because I feel like this is an invocation of a lot of things that I love about you. K is for kind. You have a good heart. I is for interesting. Fascinating to talk to. So fascinating. We started a podcast. M is for meaningful. The way you lead your life. B is for brave. You have a stout heart. E is for easygoing. So comfortable to be with. R is for reliable, a buddy you can count on. L is for laudable. Your accomplishments are most commendable. Y is for yummy, so delectable. N is for nurturing. You bring out the good in people, especially me.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that. So I encourage you to go and get your name done as a poem too, as an acrostic.
Thank you.
Poem.
It feels a bit like almost like oracle cards or something.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yes. Very much.
Thank you all so much for joining us in this sacred, humorous place as we discuss mundane names and magical names. We love staying connected with you. Feel free to follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook. We post snippets of our show audio and links to our episode there, so they're easily shareable, so you can share them with people that maybe you want to clue into our podcast or share those ideas. We also would love for you to reach out to us. Let us know who you are, where you're at, what you're listening about, how you're connecting with us. And we would love to give you a shout out on our Where My Witch Is At segment. So we'd love for you to reach out. You can do that on Facebook or Instagram or send us an email. We hope you've enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Witchy Wit Podcast.
Email us at witchywit123@gmail.com. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Get exclusive content and support us on Patreon.
Stay witchy, y'all!